Welcome back to the Jim Colbert Show. Every Tuesday evening about this time, we bring in an expert that has to do with money, financial planning, all things and, setting your ducks in a row. It's Mr. Scott Brown with Edgewater Family Wealth. Yay!
Yay! Let's do it.
Helping people passionate about planning for their future rise above investment myths to build real wealth.
Isn't that really just common sense financial advice?
It's both.
Oh, okay.
It's only money with Scott Brown from Edgewater Family Wealth.
Yay, Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't get enough of that.
I know, isn't it great?
It's both.
Have you seen Succession?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what that music, and credit to Dan Stone. Basically, I went to Scott's website. I took their mission statement off the website, and I sent it to Dan. I go, make me an intro.
Oh, perfect.
Wow.
But the music just has that feeling of the Roy family.
Yes, it does.
Let's go.
That or a Royal Rumble.
Very wealthy, but very dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's going to die.
But not at Edgewater Family Wealth.
No, we are against that. Totally against that. I want to be clear about that.
Well, it was so funny. Yesterday, Jack sent me a text, and I sent, I hit the text and said I loved it because I thought it was, those are really sweet words to live by.
Right, because I received a text, and we were in a segment, and I'm like, I need to send this to Deb since she's not here. But I didn't preface it by saying, this is from Scott Brown.
This is what
Right.
he
Well, I just sent her forwarded a text, so she thought I would. What was I telling you, Deb?
Well, Scott's going to cover today. Perfect is the enemy of good.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Zen Master, as well as the biggest resource poor people waste
Yeah.
is time.
Time. Yeah. So
So you got that text and
Right,
you
she
thought it was
for
just
me.
like some
Jack,
fortune
yeah.
cookie?
Yeah, I did. I thought he was fortune cooking me, so I was like,
Yeah,
wow,
hit-
that's so.
She hit me back with the heart. I'm like, I guess she likes it. I'm like, maybe I should tell her.
Sorry,
Nah,
Scott. That was.
I wouldn't tell her. I steal stuff from people all the time. I'm not fessing up. In fact, some of the stuff I'll talk about today, I think I stole from somebody. But you don't get this far without accidentally taking people's sage wisdom as your own occasionally. But,
Absolutely.
But the idea of perfect is the enemy of good. And I'm fond of saying perfect isn't the enemy of good. It's the enemy of everything.
It is.
People they become convinced that they don't want to do something, whatever that something is, their health, getting, physical activity or exercise as an example. Well, when I build out the exercise room in my house and I've got all the weights perfect and I've got the bench where I want it and then I got the treadmill over here and I got the other thing over here and all the stuff and the gadgets, that's when I'll really get after it. In the meantime, I'm just going to eat, chocolate pie all day, right? Knowing that if you just went out and did some push-ups or you walked around the house, did anything physical, got your steps in, went for a walk, went for a hike, rode your bicycle, all that stuff works. You just got to get the inertia going, right? And what I find with people in investing is they do the same thing. They're like, well, Scott, I want to invest. I want to do stuff, but I'm going to research for a while. I want to do a lot of research. I want to read about it. I'm going to get some Money Magazine. I'm going to watch a lot of CNBC. Maybe I'll get the Journal. Maybe I'll get Barron's for a year. And after I do that research for a couple of years, then I'll really know what to do. And at that moment, when I dive in, everything's going to be awesome. Meanwhile, they could have been saving $300 or $400 a month and have $10,000 in an account, right? Mm-hmm. And it won't be perfect. I don't care how much research you do. There are people who get paid, people who went to Harvard and got MBAs and read financial reports, income statements, balance sheets, and they do it all day long, every single day, and still get it wrong. Right? So you can't expect that you're going to, A, compete with them, and B, outperform them.
You got to jump in at some point.
Sometimes you just got to do it, man. It's, you can stand around and say, well, if this, then that, and no, just sometimes you have to take action. I even see it sometimes with financial advisors that work under me. They're reluctant to get a client to take action because they're not convinced that the thing that they've spent days and days researching is the exact best thing. I mean, right now you could say, well, what's the best thing? What's the perfect thing to do today, right? And that changes from day to day, so it's really a pointless endeavor. People waste a lot of time and a lot of energy. There are people, we've talked about this before, there are people with $500,000, $600,000, $800,000, $1 million in 401ks.
Have them call me.
Yes, I will immediately. And those people don't have $1 million in a 401k because they researched their 401k options better than you did. You know what they did? When they were 23 and they got the job, they just started putting money in it. Now they're 70 and they got $1 million. They couldn't tell you any of the funds. They couldn't tell you the manager's name. They couldn't tell you the top 10 holdings. They couldn't tell you a beta from a standard deviation. They know none of this stuff. All they did was start saving.
Can I ask a 401k question?
You may.
All right. So they do make it simple, and let's take Fidelity. I know they have one where you can kind of pick what your projected retirement age is. Mm-hmm. It's like the 2030 fund or the 2035 fund. Whenever you think you're going to be age of the retirement, and then it gets a little more conservative as you get closer to those years. Is that a good way to go? Because that's how I was able to, when I started my 401k, when I started here 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it was like, I think about 2035 is my retire, around that time. Mm-hmm. And so
sneaking up on you, by the way, Jack.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, he's going to have to rethink that date, actually.
I almost cursed because of how accurate that is. I was like, damn. I was like, yeah.
That's not good.
No.
But it's performed great. It's done well.
Yeah.
You set it and forget it. I call it like Ron Popeil. Let it go.
Let it go.
And I try not to check it often. I used to work with someone who would check it like every day. And
which is pointless.
That's maddening, especially with how the market's moved.
It's pointless.
And even in the dips, it really, it's where it is when you are going to need it. And so as you get closer, I can see maybe you're a little more concerned with the situation now. But just those ideas of, I didn't have to be an expert. It was just, I picked, one of their funds that kind of timed out with my age and when I was entering the market, and it's worked out as a nice retirement plan for me.
Yeah, what you're talking about is a target date fund.
Yeah.
So if you think you're going to retire in 2035, you said, all right, well, this fund, and what they're designed to do, it's called a glide path, right? So let's make up the math, but 20 years ago, it might have been an 80-20 stock to bond portfolio. As you age, they increase the bond exposures, right? And I'm not sold on that concept per se, but it's better than not, yes?
Right.
And that's a whole nother show talking about target dates versus, models that are risk-based. But the target date fund is a good option. And it's again, if you're 20 years old and you're not going to retire till 2050 or 2060, you don't want to be too conservative because that's going to kind of get in the way of where you're going. So these are designed to kind of take care of people who want autopilot. They want to put the money in, and as time goes on, it becomes more conservative. And at age 65, theoretically, right, it will become maybe the opposite of where you started. It was 80-20 stocks to bonds. Now it's 80-20 bonds to stocks. And again, we can argue whether that makes a lot of sense overall, but it's working, yes?
Yes.
Right. And you don't have to fiddle with it, yes?
Correct.
And the biggest problem people have with their 401ks is fiddling with them. They're always, I was going to say something also, I was going to curse.
Please don't. Save that for when Jim is here.
Save that when Jim's here. So the reality is that's the biggest mistake people make. And I gave the analogy last week about traffic. Again, it's your lane's not going, so you get in the lane that's going. The lane you got into stops.
Yes.
The lane you used to be in starts going. You can't do that. People are pattern seekers. We are designed to seek patterns. If I say 2, 4, 6, hopefully you all can say
8.
Right. If I say 3, 5, 7.
9.
Right. We learned that in kindergarten. We were taught to seek patterns, and the reason we're taught to seek patterns, it used to be a survival thing. I went down to the river, and there was a saber-toothed tiger there. I went back the next day, I saw it again. That's a pattern. It could eat me. If your ancestors were idiots, they got eaten. If they could pattern seek, they moved on to a different river. It's in our brains to seek patterns, and the problem with that is when you get a statement at the end of a year or the end of a quarter, and it's negative, and then the next statement you get is also negative, and you think, well, that's a pattern, right? So I have to correct that pattern by getting out of the thing that was down and moving to the thing that was up, because that's also a pattern I've identified. Here's the problem. That does not work with investing. There are no discernible patterns because markets are cyclical. There's no 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever. It doesn't go that way. It goes 2, 4, 6, -4. 7, 19, -3. There is no 2 + 2 = 4.
So real quick, now we're talked about the 23-year-old who's investing. We just got a text at 77031. I'm 62. I have $1,500 a month to invest. What should I do?
Edgewater Family Wealth.
I was going to say, Scott Brown at Edgewater Family Wealth, and make your appointment now.
I'm available for a nice dinner every single month, so if she would like to have...
How magnanimous of you.
I'm a giver. I'm a total giver.
I think you might be assuming that one, big dog. That dude's name is Chuck.
Hey, whatever works, man.
Exactly.
If I'm eating for free, I don't care. So here's the thing, and that's one of these answers that's going to annoy this person, which it depends, right? If you have $1,500 to say, how old was the person?
62.
62. So I don't know if the person still works. I don't know if they're saving for retirement. But if you've already got your savings kind of in place where it's, as I always say, if the roof blows off or the radiator goes out in the car, if you've got that money set aside, then you should be investing this money for the long term. Somebody will say, well, 62, I mean, you shouldn't even be buying green bananas. Look, people live regularly into their mid 80s now. So your time horizon, this is another problem people have, is they say, well, Scott, I'm 62, I'm going to be retired soon. So what? Your time horizon is not till you retire. Your time horizon is till you're dead.
Right.
Right? And if you can tell me how long that is, then we can have a further, more detailed conversation. But I would tell this person that if your goal is to save for retirement and produce a situation where income is coming back to you at some point, then just find yourself a high quality mutual fund or an ETF or some quality stocks and put it in there and set it and forget it. Warren Buffett's favorite holding period is forever. Right? And this is a whole nother problem we have with people, is wealthy people buy securities, they buy real estate, not to sell, but to hold, right? Because if you buy a bunch of real estate, you want to get the rents or whatever it is. That's what developers do, right? But people who are not particularly thoughtful with their money, they're always thinking of the sell. I'm going to buy this house and I'm going to flip it, right? They're not thinking about accumulation over a lifetime. They're thinking about, how can I make 10 grand?
Right.
Right? And I would tell you that's the wrong mentality, and that is also true of saving for retirement. If you're looking at your 401k and you're flipping in and out of mutual funds, which is just, listen, it's just silliness, right? If you're doing that, you're trying to do a trade with a mutual fund, which doesn't make any sense because there's 1,000 stocks probably in that mutual fund. I mean, most people who are doing trades in and out of mutual funds, if I say, hey, well, why did you do that? Tell me the manager's name. Tell me the top 10 holdings. Tell me the dividend. They can't answer any of those questions. They just know last month it was down and the other thing was up. So if you have this mindset of a finite game you're playing, you're not playing a finite game. You're playing an infinite game. And the problem with finite games is they have rules and they have known players, and you're trying to win. We're playing an infinite game with saving and investing, which is we don't really know the rules. We just know we want to stay in the game.
Well, speaking of finite and infinite, why is it that the number one resource that poor people waste is time? What do you mean by that?
So
is it back to the analogy of you're waiting till everything is perfect before you jump in?
That's a little part of it, but it's people don't really put value on their time. People who are not affluent largely don't understand the concept. If you're an entrepreneur, you get it. If you're an employee, for example, I say when I worked at Publix, all I wanted to do was that clock to go faster. When I was bagging groceries or stocking shelves or whatever I was pretending I was doing, I wanted the clock to go as fast as possible. To an entrepreneur or an investor, the passage of time is their enemy, right? So you want to leverage your money or other people or however you do it as an employer. That's the best use of your, when you're young, you got lots of time, but you got no money, right?
Yeah.
When you're older, hopefully you have a little bit of money, but you ain't got much time, right? So you're trying to figure out, we accumulate money to give us the freedom to use our time as we see fit, right? We're buying freedom. And if your time you don't think is, like some people will say, well, I mow my own lawn. Well, I get it. When you're young, you don't have any money. Your time is maybe not as valuable. So you mow your own lawn. I did it for the first 10 years of my life. But I have done the math, and my time at work or my time being an entrepreneur is worth far more to me than it costs me to mow the lawn. So let's say my time's worth $100 just to make the math simple. I'm paying somebody $20 to mow my lawn. And people who aren't able to do that math struggle with using other people because, the other thing people say is, well, I don't want to pay anybody. I don't want to pay I don't want a plumber. I can do my own plumbing. I can do my own electrical. I can fix my own car. Well, the irony is the wealthiest people in the world, billionaires, also have the most employees, pay the most people. They pay the most to people to leverage their time so that the billionaire can make the most money. And that concept is tough for the average person to get their head around.
But it makes sense because what I can imagine what it feels like is being wasteful and spending that money instead of saving it for, again, something down the road. Whereas what you're basically doing is just putting your time is as valuable as anyone else's, if not more so, if you can make that 100 versus spending that 20.
Yeah, you got to do that math. And I'm not saying it works in every instance, and I know people are just starting out or maybe their salary isn't quite where they want it to be. But again, is your time better spent sitting on the couch watching the Housewives of Wherever? Not that I've ever seen that show.
Sounds like you have.
Maybe. All right, the Beverly Hills one's not bad. I'm not going to lie.
And now they're in Orlando.
Yeah, oh, great. I probably know some of them. So there's that. Or is your time better spent in an Uber or getting a second job to help you accumulate the wealth to then use that wealth to create more wealth, right? It's funny that we don't value our own time very well, and the biggest issue I find with people is a lack of trust. Being a lack of trust is expensive for people, and I've given the example before. If you go off to the car shop and you need your radiator fixed or whatever, and you don't trust the person saying, you need your brakes done, Scott. Well, yeah, I'm not sure I believe that. I'm going to go to 4 more shops. I'm going to call my buddy Fred. I'm going to read Consumer Digest. How much of my time have I lost because I don't trust what that person's telling me?
That's a good point.
Whereas when I go to my mechanic, the Sunoco over in College Park on Edgewater, I go there. I've been going there for 40 years. He tells me I need brakes. I get brakes. I walk back to my shop and I wait for the brakes to be done because I trust he's going to do what's right for me. He's not just selling me brakes because he wants to make money. He wants me to be a long-term customer. And this is the last point I'll make on this is we're also very finite in our business relationships. When I started in the business, I started doing business in this community, people used to shake each other's hand, look each other in the eye, and they wanted Jack to win and they wanted Scott to win, right? In that way, we could have a long-term infinite game, yes. But when I talk to young people now, or even older people sometimes, they're like, I'm going to stick it to that guy. I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to get him down to brass tacks, and they're not going to make any money on this car I bought. And that's not how you build relationships. You're playing a finite game that you might win in the short term, but you're ruining relationships for your business life down the road.
And for that kind of expertise,
EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com. But how did your seminar go this week?
It went fabulous. We had a fantastic crowd. And by the way, I want to say we have a new publication out that you can get at EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com. A lot of people ask me, how do you use a financial advisor? So I wrote a little ebook.
Cool.
It's called I Got a Guy. And in the ebook, it's the new I Got a Guy series. And in the ebook, it tells you 10, 12 different steps that you can download the ebook. And if you go to EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com, you can download the ebook, and it'll tell you really what you should expect when working with a financial advisor.
The next book you should call, I got 5 on it, but it should be 8 by the end of the year.
Exactly. The SEC has a problem with statements like that, Ross.
Really?
I'm curious with your job, how this has got to be one of the best parts of your job. When you make that phone call to some of your clients and you go, hey, I've got great news.
You think so, right?
I would like to think so. What's that moment like when you call your clients and go, guess what? We have a 35% increase. This is what the numbers are looking like. You've been with me for 2 years. This is what I gave you. How does that interaction go south sometimes?
Oh, all the time. So
they want more?
Well, it's not. It's, again, people, everything's context. So people are always, if you say, well, we're up 8% on average for the last 7 years, like, well, yeah, but, the guy down the street told me he was up 9. You get that a lot. Or, well, yeah, but remember last year we were down, right? We get a lot of that too. Like you can show a person that they've averaged 7 or 8% a year for the last 20 years. They're going to point immediately to the year that was down and then tell you that the world's going to end this year and what am I going to do about it?
It's like they got to negotiate with you, afraid you're going to ask for more money because they're doing better. It's like they're trying to prep
hedge
you.
their bets.
I mean, that could be part of it. I mean, I've been doing this so long that I don't really ask people for money anymore. They typically, if it's working out, they're going to come to you.
Yeah.
But it's just human nature. We're warriors. We're worried about bad news. First of all, bad news triggers your brain twice as hard as good news. So if you're down 10%, you feel really, really bad. If you're up 10%, you feel kind of good.
Right.
That's how people are. And if I have 20 stocks in a portfolio and 18 of them are up, the client is every time going to point to the 2 that are down. Even if the whole account's up 20%, they're going to point to the 2 stocks that are down and ask me why I let that happen.
Well, Scott, where can folks go again to download the ebook called I Got a Guy?
You can go to EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com.
And what do you have planned for Thanksgiving?
I'm going to eat a lot, sit on the couch, watch football, and fall asleep.
Excellent. Yay! It's the American way.
Oh, yeah.
Round of applause for Scott Brown, EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com for the ebook, I Got a Guy. And to all of those listeners who texted us at 77031, go to that website, get his contact information, make your appointment, and get your ducks in a row. Scott, as always, thank you for making the trip in. We really appreciate it.
It's a blast. I love it. Thank you.
You got it. Have a great, happy Thanksgiving for you and your family.
You too.
All right. Well, it's a Brad Day trivia time, y'all. Load up the phones. We're going to do that next.